My name is Genevieve Sink, and have you ever been watching a foreign film or TV show and heard an English word but pronounced differently? Like the word milkshake in English but being pronounced as milkshake in Japanese, or the word Sprite being pronounced as Sprite in Spanish. Well, these are ways that languages correct pronunciation of different words, and every language does this. English, for instance, does this with Greek words. The words that start with PH in our language are usually derived from Greek, but because we cannot pronounce the PH properly, we pronounce it like an F. In this speech, I will cover what phonetics are, how languages use loanwords, and why languages change the pronunciations of loanwords. Firstly, what are phonetics? Well, Britannica describes phonetics as the study of speech sounds and their physiological production and acoustic qualities, which is a long and roundabout way of saying it's how we form, listen to, and make connections through our speech. We form speech through our vocal organs, otherwise known as our vocal cords, and that's how we create varying tones and length of sound. We then use our ears to listen to those sounds, and we send those sounds up to our brain, and our brain makes a connection to them, forming words, sentences, paragraphs, and so on. But within phonetics, there's actually a study called phonotactics, which Science Direct describes as rules regarding speech. It's the how and the what we form with our speech. For instance, in English, we use short vowels when using a closed syllable, like the word cat. But if we were to have an open syllable, we would use a longer vowel, such as go or be. And although phonetics is central to a language, loanwords also play a big role in our language. Loanwords are words taken and used by speakers at one language from another language. Basically, it means that we take when we find a foreign language, we take a word from them, and that's a loanword. But loanwords aren't new. In fact, some of our oldest loanwords come from Latin. Words like butter, church, and wine are all words that are derived from Latin. And the funny thing is that Latin actually took those words from Greek, which means that our loanwords are loaned from a language who loaned them from another language. And loanwords are something that we either get because we have a need for them or because we have a prestige. And that translation blog says that when we need a word, we take it because there's either a new invention or we have new foods or new surroundings that we need to get a word for. For instance, the word tsunami from Japanese was a need word because we didn't have a word for tsunami originally. We can also take them for prestige. Prestige would be something like slang or new internet words such as streaming or gamer. Those would be prestige words. But how do loanwords and phonetics relate to each other? Well, when loaned, some languages can't actually pronunciate the words properly. For instance, let's take the word program from English. When saying the word program, we have two consonants at the beginning and two consonants in the middle that in Japanese would not be allowed. So what they would do is they would separate the P and the R, the G and the R, and put a vowel in the middle to make it phonetically correct for their language. They would also add a U at the end, so that way it would be phonetically correct because they can't pronounce a consonant at the end of a word. So it would sound something like protoguramu, where they would have a U in the middle of all of the consonants and then a U at the end. But we also do this in English. For instance, the word tsunami from earlier, we actually don't pronounce that one correctly. We drop the T at the beginning and we pronounce it with an S instead of a T and an S. We do this because we actually can't pronounce the T at the beginning phonetically without it making our brains hurt and sounding wrong. So I've explained in this speech how languages change the phonetics of different words that we steal from other languages. I first defined phonetics and the phonotactics to understand how speech words are created and interpreted. We then explored what loanwords are and how they can change based on phonetics. And then learning about how languages change words is actually very important for trying to develop language and have it progress with society. If we don't know how languages were formed in the first place, we have no way of knowing how it's going to progress throughout time. And knowing where these words are coming from and where they're going is especially important. So the next time that you're watching a foreign film or a foreign TV show, how about you stop and think about that slightly similar English word that you heard in a very different language and see why it changed the way it did.